listening to the Heartland Author Podcast. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For today's episode, I had the honor of interviewing Aesha Tahir. Aesha is a posture coach who founded the company Tone and Strengthen, and she is the author of the book Unhunched, which is about posture. If you're an author, writer, or someone else who primarily works while sitting behind a computer, this episode and Aesha's book is for you. I'm here with Aesha Tahir, who is a posture coach and has authored a book called Unhunched. Aesha, welcome to the Heartland Author Podcast.
Aaron, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
I am an exercise physiologist and I specialize in human movement science, and a lot of people are not familiar with that. All that means is that I can help people move better and pain-free, because as we grow older and as we live our lives through different situations, we develop muscle imbalances. And what muscle imbalances do is that they turn into movement dysfunctions. So, when we type a lot, that means that we are repetitively typing a lot, and we are keeping our wrists and elbows in a certain position. Sometimes people use the mouse with one hand a lot, which is your dominant hand. Mostly it's your right hand. That means that the shoulder will be elevated on your right side. Now that shoulder elevation means that eventually you're gonna have a movement dysfunction on your shoulder. So that's what I help people to avoid. I correct their muscle imbalances so that they can move pain-free, and so that they don't develop later on arthritis, diseases like arthritis, autoimmune diseases sometimes, and even injuries.
Now, without spoiling too much of your book Unhunched, what is that about?
So Unhunched is about having better posture for busy desk-bound professionals. By busy desk-bound professionals, I mean people who are working at their desk for long hours, and I think authors and writers can relate with that, because when I was writing the book, I was like, oh, this is very paradoxical, because I'm writing the book and I'm starting to have carpal tunnel syndrome. So that's what who the book is for, and this book is about how to have better posture while adopting technology, while working at our desk, while having those long hours at work. And in my book, I have presented my BRACE posture correction model. BRACE stands for breath, relaxation, activity, and corrective exercise. So these are the 4 components of the framework that I presented. And what that encompasses is that if you practice slow, deep breathing, if you practice some sort of relaxation, it could be just walking outside, walking your dog for 10 minutes a day, you incorporate more activity into your day, and then you really focus on the corrective exercise for the movement dysfunction you're having and the muscular imbalance you have, then you will have better posture. And my book delves into the cutting edge science, and I have interviews with experts to explain why our posture matters to our health and well-being.
Now, is your book self-published or traditionally published?
So it is published through a publishing house which is hybrid, but they operate more on the traditional side, as in their model is very traditional based. You're not the only author. They're working on many different authors alongside you. They assign a timeline for every stage of the book publishing, and all in all, it was a good experience. I thought that I wished that I would have more time for editing, but at the same time I'm happy that the book got out. Otherwise I would keep on double guessing myself.
Now, what was the easiest and most difficult aspects of writing a book for you?
Oh, that's a very good question. The easiest part was that I had a lot of material. I had a lot of interviews. I'm a researcher at heart, and I'm always reading stuff about things in my field, and this is my field of work. So I had a lot of information. People ask me, "Oh, did you have writer's block?" And I didn't. If I had more time, my book would be double the size that it is right now. It's published at 240 pages. It would have been double. But it's the hardest part was the editing phase, because I realized that you have to take your manuscript through at least 4 or 5, and maybe I'm exaggerating, editing phases. Like you need at least 4 editing cycles. That part was challenging in the way that first, I feel like I didn't want to part with some of the information. Second, it was like a lot of like cleaning up, a lot of reorganizing the information, especially when it came to chapters and stuff. So that was a little bit of a, I think, learning curve for me as a first-time author.
Now, do you plan on, or are you considering writing more books?
I am. As much as I just told you, like, the editing phase was hard, I feel like I just loved writing the book. And as far as posture is concerned, there is so much more science behind posture and its impact on our emotional well-being and mental health. And I am hoping to write my second book on posture and its impact on our mental health.
Now, you are a posture coach who founded the company Tone and Strengthen. What types of clients do you coach, and what services does your company provide?
Yes, so I am the founder of Tone and Strengthen, and I'm a movement specialist and posture coach. I mostly work with busy professionals who are having painful movement. And mostly when we dive deeper into when we do the posture assessment and movement assessment, we find out that it's the way that they are holding their bodies while at work. Mostly it could even be, the way when they're driving. So we work on their ergonomics, we work on correcting their movement dysfunction by correcting the muscle imbalances, and those are most of my clients who come to see me.
Now, as most authors nowadays don't actually handwrite book manuscripts, but do their work from behind a laptop or a desktop computer, is there any advice regarding proper posture that you could provide to authors specifically, or would any advice you'd provide along those lines apply to anyone who sits to do their work in general?
Yeah, so my go-to posture tip and pain-free movement tip is to change your position, your body position often. So move. And when I say move, it doesn't have to be like you're going out and, running or sprinting down the road or even your home. What I mean by that is that you want to change the way you're sitting. So if you're sitting on the chair, maybe go and sit down on the floor. If you are sitting on the floor, stand up and hopefully, invest in a sit-to-stand desk or a converter, which you can buy on Amazon. So stand for 10 minutes. And then go back to sitting on the chair. So the more often you change your body position, the less tense your muscles get. And less tense muscles means that you'll have better posture and pain-free movement. That's my go-to tip. Couple of other tips that I think are very important, which I give to my clients, are to raise the screen level. So a lot of times we are looking down. That leads to the forward head posture and rounded shoulder posture for our upper body, and that can lead to neck pain, shoulder pain, lower back pain. So make sure that your laptop or your computer screen is at your eye level, so you don't have to look down. And the third one is to invest in a split ergonomic keyboard so that you don't have carpal tunnel.
Now, my final question is a personal question of sorts. If you have an exercise routine, what is that like for you?
Oh, yes, I do. Actually, exercise is one of my quirks, writing quirks. I can't sit down to write. I feel like I'm not creative enough if I haven't gotten my workout in. So the first thing I do in the morning is to get my workout, and I work out for an hour. My routine varies depending on the day it is, but in general, I have 2 days of cardio. I'm a runner too, so I would always go out for a run. But it could be anything for people, whatever activity you like. Maybe you like riding an indoor bike. Maybe you like to bike outdoors. Maybe you want to just go for a stroll outside. That is perfectly fine. And then 3 days a week, I do strength training of some sort. And then for one bonus day, like on the weekend, I get my kids involved and we do some sort of interval training and go out for a hike.
Well, Aesha, you are a wonderful guest for this podcast, and I thank you for appearing on the Heartland Author Podcast.
Aaron, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And I have to say that you're doing an amazing work for the authors, highlighting authors on this podcast. I've been listening to your podcast, and really, I enjoyed all the authors' interviews.
Aesha was a wonderful guest for this podcast. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to maintain good posture while writing your imagination. Bye for now. You can learn more about me and my book writing projects at campaaronapollo.wixsite.com/authoraac. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at AuthorAAC and on Instagram at AACScribe. Copyright 2023, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.